In September of 2023, Allie Kay had 1,400 members in her membership, which was just under 2 years old. A week later, she had over 4,500 members after a $10 workshop week, which led to a more than 40% conversion rate. She's going to be breaking it all down for us on this episode. So I met Allie Kay when she reached out because she had just exploded her membership, 3x more members after a launch that she had, and she needed help with her community management. She's like, help, I know I cannot handle this on my own. So we got her hooked up with one of the community managers that had been trained through our Cultivate Community training course, and then plugged them into our retained group consulting program. And we've been working together ever since. And I cannot wait for this episode because Allie is an incredible artist who had been an artist for, let's say, 10 years. She had been teaching for maybe a year and a half online before she opened up her membership, which had experienced a lot of success. In just a year and a half, she had about 1,400 members. But after one launch week, she had over 4,500 members. She had a 40+% conversion rate on her launch. And I knew we had to share this with you and break it all down for you, not just to hear about her launch, but to talk about what it's meant for her to have this kind of growth and what she's looking forward to over the next year as she continues to build strong systems in her business. Well, Allie, thank you for being here. I'm so excited to dive in and learn more about your membership success.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So before we dive in to your membership, let's talk a little bit about you. What is your favorite community you've ever been a part of, and what did you love about it?
Okay, so I would say my favorite community was the community of artists that I was a part of when I first moved to Tennessee. I moved into a studio building. It was actually a renovated nursing home, but it was like this really quirky building of all different artists that were working there. And what was so neat is everybody just we felt like a family. It just sort of happened that way, where people were supporting each other, doing different things. And I think what was fun about that building too is it was so quirky. It almost felt a little bit like a college dorm for grown-ups, where you just never knew what was going to happen when you walked down the hallway. Somebody might be riding a unicycle. There might be some paint being thrown. It was just always a surprise. And I loved that about it. It was a lot of fun.
That's so fun. And Nicholas Wilton, who is an artist as well that I know, has a similar setup, like with his art studio right now. It's in a older building. I think they used to make warships or something, and it's all artists. And so I've been there a couple times before, and it is that feeling of like a college dorm, which I think many of us look fondly on our college experience because of that immersion in a dorm-like setting. So it's really fun to have that as an adult. Do you still utilize a studio like that, or is just your studio in home?
So I am in a similar sort of building now. So that previous building came to, unfortunately, a screeching halt when the world stopped 4 years ago, and we all had to find a new space. So I'm in a new building that is also art studios. And I believe our new building used to be a yarn factory, I think. So it's still pretty cool, but there was just something about the people in the last building that I think it was a bit more casual. We're a little more refined here, which is not as quite as much fun.
Yeah, not letting loose as much. Okay, so let's talk about that. When the world stopped, that's about when you started your membership business soon after that, right?
Well, that was when I really started leaning into teaching online. So I had a few courses at that point already, but when everything stopped, kind of canceled all the in-person workshops that I had lined up. And so that was really when I shifted gears and started doing more live teaching online. I just started flipping my camera on and painting on a regular basis on my Facebook page. So it actually wasn't for about another year and a half, 2 years before I actually started my membership. I started it in 2022, but that was really what sparked the idea in my mind to just consistently show up for people and teach them live.
So you started it in 2022, and here we are in 2023, and people are probably thinking, well, that's barely a year old, maybe a little bit more than a year. Like how much success could Allie have had to be on Shanna's podcast? So let's give them just a little bit of context. How many members do you have?
We have 4,225 members.
That is absolutely incredible. I know people that have had memberships for years and years and have never reached that level of success. So before we dive into the specific launch that you did that really catapulted things, I'm excited because you're willing to break that down for us, which I love. But I want to talk a little bit about just the type of art that you do. What is your niche? Like, how are you standing out in the world of many, many art memberships online? And what did your community or sphere of influence look like before you launched the membership?
Yeah, so my membership is a painting membership, and the style that I like to teach and kind of lean into, because it's what I gravitate towards, is like an impressionistic style. And so, big fancy art word, but basically that means like we use big brush strokes. It's not super focused on detail. We're more like capturing how light lands on different subjects. And I love teaching students how to use bold color. So it's just kind of like just a loose and bold way of capturing painting. So we do all different subjects. Like you can see some behind me. It really varies, but I love to be able to teach my students this method, this system that they can follow and then implement, really doing anything that they are inspired to create. So that's the system that I do. And I guess what's maybe a little bit different from some other people that are teaching painting.
So you have this unique style, which I think is very eye-catching, which probably helps online. So before you launched your membership in 2022, what was your following like? Because I always like to give people context, because I do think that sometimes in the membership space, there is this perceived notion that you can go from having no list, no audience, to a 4,000 person membership in a matter of a year, which really just isn't the way that it works. So talk a little bit about what you were starting with before you launched the membership.
Sure. Yeah, I did not start from nothing. I had been teaching for about 10 years at that point. Mainly, I was teaching, traveling to different conventions and teaching, and then I would have students retreats that I would host. So I was already doing that quite a bit, and I've always been really active on my social media. So I had a really strong baby following. I guess I thought it was really big at that time, but now I realize I think it's those first couple hundred, those first couple thousand of followers that are really the hardest. And once you kind of get over that little hump of having some people that are regularly interacting what you share on social media, then it really grows much faster after that. So trying to remember where I was at, like my Facebook page probably had about 2,500 followers, so that it wasn't nothing, but it took a long time to get to that point, I think. And some of that is just the way algorithms work and all that we don't really fully understand. But I was regularly teaching little pop-up weekly sessions on my Facebook page for a year and a half. We called them paint-alongs. We sold a $10 template individually for those. I was doing that for a year and a half before I ever launched the membership. So those people that were following me, they got really used to this idea of me delivering them weekly lessons. So when we decided to launch, we kind of announced that things were going to change, that we were going to be able to provide them better instruction, that this new membership was going to be something even better than what I was offering before. So that was kind of how we positioned it, but I stopped doing those weekly $10 lessons.
But you had worked to build that loyalty and people knew that you were good, right? And you did have, like, I think people would think with the success that you've experienced, you had like 100,000 plus followers and you were some online art influencer, but that's not the case. You were just showing up consistently for a loyal group and a group that was paying, which I think actually really does make a difference. They were already used to opening up their pocketbook for you. So talk about the deliverables within the membership and the price points that people can see how similar or how different it is from what you were doing.
Yeah, so there are quite a few similarities where I do teach a new live lesson every week. instead of being a new painting every single week, because I think 4 paintings a month would really overwhelm people, we changed it up. And I actually love that we can offer just kind of a different way of learning to paint. So my first lesson of the month is a sample painting where they follow me step by step. And then the second lesson is a topic lesson. So that could be about how to mix color, how to set up your studio space. We even talk about things like selling your art or developing good habits as an artist. So that really varies from month to month on what I teach on. And then we do another painting lesson, and then we finish the month out with a student critique where I review like 10 different student samples from the topic that we were teaching. So we just continue to repeat that cycle. That's what the deliverables look like. But then another really awesome part of having the membership is the community aspect. And we were completely missing that before when we were just doing like the individual paint-alongs that people could purchase, one at a time. Now we have this thriving Facebook group. It is unbelievable. We probably have about 100 posts a day in our Facebook group. Our members are just so active because they love to share their paintings in there, and then they support each other and they encourage each other. And so that's really been super exciting to see happen. As far as the price point, it's actually pretty similar. So before we had the $10 paint-alongs, if you were doing it every week, that would be $40. And my membership is $45 monthly, or we have an annual option, which is $445. So I think that comes out to like $37 a month. So either option is really similar to what we were offering before, but now we're kind of offering like an elevated experience of that.
Yeah, and I love that price point because we see a lot of artists who have memberships that are like, well, it's just art. So I'm not helping people make money, $19 a month, 20 something dollars a month. And you've been able to grow and scale with a legitimate price point. And I love that you brought up the community because that's really how we got connected. You had your launch that we'll dive into in just a bit. You grew really fast and you're like, oh no, what do I do? I need help. I need a community manager. So got you connected with somebody who had been through my Cultivate community training, and then ultimately got you and her inside of our retention program, really to help elevate her as a leader and help build out solid retention systems to support the acquisition growth that you've experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. That has been a whirlwind. It's been a learning experience to be able to see this large surge in our community and figure out how to serve them well so that people will still be having an amazing experience, even though it has grown so much.
So when was that big launch? When did that happen?
So that was last September.
Okay. So September of 2023, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're in 2024. I don't know why I said 2023 earlier. I feel like I've been living in 2023 for a very long time. So your membership is like 2 years old.
Yeah, it was 2 years old in January.
Okay, so it's 2 years old. Forgive me. I like tell people, I'm like, this is just pregnancy brain. I literally am living a year behind. Okay, so 2 years old, 2024. So last September, last fall, you did your big launch. So your membership was just under 2 years old. And before you did that launch, about how many members did you have?
So before we did the big launch, we had 1,400 members.
Okay. And then after the launch?
And so that launch, I did this week-long event that we'll talk about. And then we had the cart open for about 4 days after that. So it was over 9 days. It grew by another 3,000 members. So we were 4,448 was the total at the end of it.
Yes. More than doubling, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah. It like tripled.
Crazy. I can understand why you were a deer in headlights after that, because I don't think any business owner would ever expect their business to triple essentially in a week, which is what happened. So this is where we get into the fun part. Dive in, start breaking down for us. What did you do for your launch? Was it a workshop, a webinar, a challenge? What was your launch setup?
So it was a week-long, I guess we'll call it a workshop, and it was paid. I had done little pop-up events before where we got, a bunch of brand new people into a Facebook group, and I delivered, kind of some sample teaching. But this was the first time that we made it a paid event. So it was $10. We called it Paint Week. And basically, I took like a month of being in my membership and consolidated that into that week. And so I walked them through painting lessons. I did color mixing demo. And so it was really like a small sample of what we offered. So that was part of it. It was also the first time that I had told anybody that the doors were going to close to my membership. So that was another big part of it, is we always had the membership open. So my membership had really consistently grown. It just wasn't growing super fast. When I first launched it, I had just under 400 members. And so before Paint Week was about a year and a half in, we were up to 1,400, it was still awesome. But it was always constantly filling up the bucket of people leaving on a regular basis. I think our churn was pretty high at that point. So we announced to everybody, this is it. This is the first time we're going to move to this new closed model, because we can better serve our members and just bring people in a group a few times a year. So I'm sure that had a huge impact on so many people joining. But yeah, I just really showed up and taught live for about an hour and a half every day for 5 days. It was exhausting, but it was very successful.
And was that $10 for the week for them to participate? Okay. And then how many people did you have join in for that Paint Week?
We had 7,000 people that participated in Paint Week, and we gave it to our members for free. So it was 7,000 paid brand new people that came in and purchased that $10 workshop.
So $70,000 just in the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Not too shabby. Were you running ads at all for it?
We were. So the Meta gods got most of that back. But yes, I believe we had like $66,000 in ad spend to put on that workshop. So my goal was to not lose money, and we didn't. So that felt like a success. Yeah.
Well, and that's really an incredible strategy around paid launches, is that you use the small price point of the launch to do a couple of things. One is to curate the most likely people who are going to invest in a membership because they've already, like we said, opened up their pocketbooks for you. And then secondly is to recoup your ad costs. So a lot of people are really afraid to run ads for membership launches, for challenges, workshops, etc. But if you can put a small price point, even like $10, then that can really help recuperate that ad cost, so that essentially you're in the black before you ever open the door to members. So everything above that is just gravy, which is awesome. So you had the week of teaching. Did you literally just teach, or was there more structure to it? Were you trying to like guide them on a path? Were you trying to like showcase what it was like in the membership? I mean, how much strategy was behind what you were teaching each of these days?
So it was, I would say, a third of the time that I was with them, I was selling the membership. So I was consistently going back to, this is a sample of what I teach, and the way that you really grow as an artist is not by doing a single lesson, that it's consistently learning and having support. So we kicked off every call in Paint Week. I started it with a 10-minute countdown where I showed a slideshow of my members sharing their work. I had my members give advice to all the new people coming in, and I read that as a voiceover during this slideshow. So we really tied it into like what this is all about, that it is not just this single lesson, that you're here to learn about this community. So it was a lot of that. And then throughout the week too, as people were creating the paintings from Paint Week, we made more slideshows where we pulled in all the images of the participants, and we talked about the things they were saying and the impact it was having on them. So I spent a lot of the time talking about that as well. And I gave a thorough introduction of myself and my background, just kind of shared like what I care about, because I realized that so many of these people, like they saw a Facebook ad, they had no idea who I was, and they bought this $10 workshop. So I spent a lot of time just getting to know them as well.
There's 4 key things that you said in here. One is that last piece around really creating connection with you, because they need to trust you. They need to feel like they know you, and you showed up consistently for them, but also giving them that background information, I think, was hugely valuable. Second, having your existing members involved. It's something I always encourage membership owners to do, but I often find that they feel like, oh no, it's going to overwhelm my members, or I don't want them to like see me in a sales position. I'm like, they're your best advocates to talk about how awesome your membership is. Like, of course you want them involved and for them to already experience the support that they can get within the membership from existing members. And then you to be showcasing what it's like inside of the membership and not hiding that. I think oftentimes when people do launches, they just deliver content until the very end. And then they're like, oh, by the way, I have this program that you should buy. And I really encourage people, and it sounds like you did this, to not be shy about the fact that you have a program, you have a membership, or you have a course, and that they can participate and that what they're experiencing is just a piece of that. And to go ahead and start seeing before you ever open the doors the value of that program. Because I think people's fear is that, well, then people who feel like they're getting sold to are just going to not participate, but they're not going to buy your membership. Like if they don't like you mentioning or seeding early on your program, they're not going to like your big sales pitch at the end either. So we don't need to worry about those people that are going to leave. So I think those elements that you really worked in, like, getting to know you, building trust, the community piece, showcasing the membership early on, and then finally helping them see the progress that they've made over that week. You said that you would pull in pictures and work, and I know not every membership can show visuals, but we can celebrate the progress of the people over that week for them to recognize that, because oftentimes we talk about this a lot where people are making progress, but because we are not reflecting back to them the progress they're making, they don't feel like they've made progress. So those elements, I think, are really key to what led to such great success. And so you had 7,000 members in there. You had about 3,000 join.
We had 3,000. Yeah, a little over, I think.
So a little over 40% conversion rate.
Crazy.
That is so insane. So tell me, I would assume you had like a Facebook group for people who were in the challenge. Did you do all of your lives inside of that group, or did you do them separately? What did that look like?
I did all of them in the Facebook group. Mainly just that's how I deliver my live lessons to my community. So that was what I was familiar with. So that it worked well. We did discover that when you have 7,000 strangers in a Facebook group, that takes a bit more moderation than having, your members in a Facebook group on a much smaller scale. So that was interesting. I wouldn't say any of this was easy. It was a huge learning experience, but it was great. Yeah. So everybody showed up there. I delivered the live lessons. And then we did provide the recording because we know that people can't necessarily attend live or do it live. But I think another really key component to so many people joining the membership is that we did not give them continued access to those recordings. We gave them access to the recordings until the day of cart close. And then we positioned it saying, like, we understand maybe you didn't have time to do these paintings. Maybe you want to go back to the videos. Those are all available in your Fresh Paint membership. So by signing up even for that first month, they were going to have continued access to the Paint Week recordings and be able to do that at their own pace.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that because I do oftentimes business owners feel like, well, they paid $10 for this. Like they should get the recordings. I'm like, they paid $10 for the experience. Like that's what they paid for. They didn't pay for the recordings. And as long as you're upfront about that, which I'm sure you were from the beginning, then it's usually not an issue. We always have a few squirrely people that will complain, but that's just how it works. The more people you have, the more squirrely people you have. But that is really a great strategy because it also, we need people to feel the deadline so that they show up and participate, so that they consume the content. Because otherwise you just end up in the do it later pile and then they miss the opportunity to join because the doors are closed. And then you start getting emails of being like, well, I didn't know that you were going to close the doors and I didn't watch that and I waited because I had the replay. So having that replay deadline is really important because that's what actually gives people the urgency to consume the thing that ultimately is selling them into the membership before the doors close.
Absolutely. Yes. And like you said, the reason we wanted them to, like, why maybe it felt like we were pressuring them to do it during Paint Week, that they weren't going to have that continued access, it's because we want them to have success. And we know that the only way they're going to have that success is to start. And artists are famous for being like procrastinators. Hate to put down artists, I'm one, but we just procrastinate on things. It's like we wait for that surge at the end of adrenaline that we have to get it done. And so I felt like we were doing people a favor by making sure that they got started and they did it, rather than giving them forever to do these lessons.
Yeah, that's so smart. So, okay, how often are you doing these weeks now? Because, I mean, obviously it worked well. You had the advantage of this being the first time you closed your membership. But we all know that launches are exhausting. They take everything out of us and our team. So as you look ahead and so far, how often are you doing a launch like this?
So I have not done another paint week since, but my plan is to do it again in September. So my plan is for once a year to do a big event like this. And so far, since Paint Week, we did a little pop-up opening in January for only 2 days. And it was only to our wait list. So it was kind of like this little secret behind the scenes pop-up opening. We grew the wait list to, I think it was around 4,000 were on the wait list at that point in January. And we had over 900 people join in January. So that was great because, of course, we had some churn, and that kind of like filled us back up to about the same point that we were at. And then we just actually finished another launch. So now it's May. We just finished another week-long opening this time, but it was not like a paid event. I wasn't really teaching anything. We just positioned the launch where we, emailed our list and we ran ads, and I went live and talked about it. And that was it. And it was really successful. We had just under 800 new people join us as of Tuesday.
I think it's so smart because a lot of business owners who have really big success with a launch will go, well, we need to do more of that. And they end up exhausting themselves and exhausting their team to a point of burnout. And they also end up with really high churn, really low retention, because they are focused so much on marketing that they don't really do that work. So I definitely commend you because you got all these members in and you immediately were like, okay, our churn is not good. Like, how do we get our retention solid so that we can keep these thousands of members that we just got? And you all have done the work. You and your teammate have done an incredible job. You've got your retention up. I think last I saw it was like over 94% or something like that, which is really incredible considering the fast growth that you have. Often when we see really fast growth, we see retention in the 80s, and you all have been able to really scale your retention up, decrease your churn in the midst of having fast growth. And I think a huge part of that is just intentionally saying, yes, that was a very successful launch. We could turn around and do it again in 2 months if we want, but we need to plug these holes. We need solid systems in place. We want to create a great experience so that when we do a pop of 900 here or 800 here or do another big launch in the fall, we're actually getting the lifetime value from these customers because they're sticking around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I needed time to just like reevaluate the business, to bring in more staff. My team has grown. Like, I knew I needed to do those things or it was going to kill me. So I've been working on just getting the business organized to support that many people. So we've hung out at that same number, around like 4,400 members for the past, 9 months or so. And that feels great that we are able to just kind of like maintain that and get our feet under us and figure things out. And having Andrea being really focused on the community and making sure that our retention is really, really good has been so important to this whole thing.
Yeah. And it's not a race. Like, there's no rush for you to hit some new goal. And I think oftentimes somebody in your position would go, okay, well, let's just get to 5,000 or let's just get to 10,000. We did it. Let's do it again. Let's double. But to set goals that are not necessarily membership growth goals, but our team goals, our time and space goals. And we've kind of talked about this, where when you have been the only person or one of the few that's been running this business, you've had to work extra hours. You've had to exhaust yourself on the ground. And then as you start to build this team, it's hard for you to step away because you're so used to spending all your time working that you have a little bit of an identity crisis, a little bit of a challenge because you're growing a team. You have to shift your focus from membership marketing and all of that to team building and systems building. And oftentimes when you do it well, which you have, it means you don't have to work as many hours as you've been working. And then you have to figure out like, ooh, how do I actually let my team do their job? And like not just default to working because that's what you've done for so long.
Yeah, that's definitely a shift. I don't know that I'm quite there yet with working less hours because I have this bad habit of as soon as I have a few minutes, I like tack something else on. But I'm getting there. I'm getting better at handing things over. And it's just a process of figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. And I love this model. One of the things we've talked to people about is once you find a good launch, like something that works for you, right? Stick with it. Stick with it until it proves itself to not work for you anymore. And ideally 1 to 2 big launches a year with some flash openings in between that are really light lifts tends to be a really good stability pattern. And then eventually you might need an evergreen funnel, which is always the last thing I recommend people do. So those of you that are starting with an evergreen funnel from the start, you are making life hard on yourself because it is the hardest thing to master. But then eventually you can layer that in. If you get to a membership growth ceiling where it's like, okay, literally like we're not going to be able to grow up above this without doing some other type of marketing initiative, instead of adding more launches, I highly recommend trying to figure out that evergreen funnel. So eventually what it can look like is 1 to 2 big launches a year, a couple of flash sales in between that are really low lifts, and then the team is really focused on mastering an evergreen funnel that's like a backdoor into the membership at all times. Okay, so if somebody were wanting to do this kind of launch, what kind of advice would you give them, or what do you feel like are the keys that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I do feel like things are changing a little bit with putting on an event and really relying on like Facebook ads to be bringing so many people in. So I'm already starting to think about when we do this again, what are some other ways that we can reach people to be getting a large number of people into this pop-up event. I do think I will repeat the system of the $10 opportunity, but I'm definitely going to be thinking about starting earlier, thinking about, just really growing my list until that point so that we can have a really strong list of people who are already in our community who are in a place where they're ready to sign up for something that's $10 because they've been wanting to start learning with me. So I think that is really important as well, just having that really nurtured list. And we consistently send out weekly newsletters that are just all content, teaching, free stuff so that people know that we're not always trying to sell to them. So I think that's important. And I think like going into the teaching, just as much as you can, just, being yourself and putting yourself out there and not seeming overly polished or overly fake or artificial. Like I was just very much like, this is who I am. That's why I like to teach live, because I kind of feel better just putting it all out there. We didn't edit anything. We recorded it live and gave them the recording immediately, and it is what it is. And I think as a result, people just got to know me as a person and somebody that they would want to learn from more so than a really refined like course. That was what worked for us. I know that live doesn't work for everybody, but I tend to just gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I enjoy live much better. I'm like, just put me live. I don't want to, if I actually have after this, I have to record a presentation for a summit that's like 15 to 20 minutes, which is about half the time of any stage talk that I give. And it is, my assistant keeps messaging me. She's like, are you going to record this? The deadline is coming. You've known about this for weeks. And I'm like, it's because I have to do slides and I have to pre-record it. And like if they had just scheduled on my calendar, show up live, like I have a podcast interview after this one, I'm like, those are my favorites. Just have me show up live because I know it's easier. I'm going to deliver, but I know for some people, they're not as comfortable with that. But I love like this talk too about what you're doing to nurture in between, because especially if you're going to do some little flash sales, but it's going to be a year essentially before you have your full launch, you have this, is it just the newsletter because you're not doing your live teaching anymore?
Yeah, I'm not regularly sharing live lessons to the public at all anymore. I'm active on social media. I'm posting every single day something. And we try to make the posts be kind of framed where I'm giving tips. I'm regularly sharing helpful things to position myself as the teacher. But we make sure that the newsletter is really good every week. And that's it. I'm not doing, because I really want to be able to focus on the members. I don't want to feel like, oh, well, I have to do this other pop-up workshop and this other free course on something on YouTube. I don't want to be torn in so many different places. And maybe as my team grows, we can schedule more of that. But I want the members to feel like, because they're on the inside, they're the ones who are getting all that teaching. It's the full lessons are not going to the general public.
Yeah. And so how are you growing that list to get more people on your list? Because that is, I will say, one of the biggest mistakes people make in between launches is not growing their list. And then they're just launching to the same people they launched to last time. And then they wonder why they didn't get as good of a conversion rate and why as many people didn't join. So I love that you're working on growing your list, but how are you doing that in the meantime?
So I have a couple of different things that we run ads to all the time. So we never stop running ads after a launch. So I have a freebie download. It's my guide to looser brush strokes. And so it's a PDF with like 10 tips for how to paint looser. And then just this past April, we started a new mini course that is kind of like an evergreen. Well, it's not a way for people to get into the membership, but the mini course isn't, we're always running ads to it. It's a single lesson. It's my Loose Tulips mini course. And so it's $29. And we run ads to that all the time. And that is how we're bringing in a lot of brand new people to my world. So they're really encouraged to get started on that course, to start painting with me. And this past launch that we just did, we had about 2,000 people who had already taken the Loose Tulips mini course since we launched it. Those were 2,000 brand new people. And so we sent them a couple emails saying, we know you just paid $29 for this course. We would like to invite you to apply that $29 towards your first month in the membership. So they got a coupon to use $29 off of the $45 membership payment just for that first month. They could apply it. And so we had a lot of people take us up on that because they felt good. They felt like they didn't just waste their money on the Loose Tulips course. The Loose Tulips course is part of the membership and they could just roll right in. So I think we're going to continue to really promote that little mini course.
Yeah, that is so smart. I have another client that does a paid workshop similar to you. They do like a coaching kind of week because they're more of like in the life coach space. But then at the end, people can apply what they paid for that week to their first month of membership. And it's like, it's like no risk for you to kind of get in there and give it a try. But I think there's another episode in this podcast. Who knows? I don't know my schedule. I don't know how far apart they're going to be. But if you go back, there's an episode with Justin and Sarah where we're talking about creating a community of buyers and a list of buyers using low ticket offers. And that's exactly what you've done with this $29 workshop. And it creates so many opportunities because it supports your ad budget, which is amazing. Again, you hear her talking about ads and some of you in your head are going, well, that works for her, but I can't run ads because I can't afford ads. She's finding ways to pay for ads. $10 workshop or challenge, that's helping cover her ad costs. It more than covered her ad costs. $29 workshop, that's helping cover her ad costs. And she can take that $29 and not put it in the revenue line per se. She can just put it right back into her ad budget, which is what most people do with these low ticket offers. And then the really cool thing is you're so close to an evergreen funnel because, like you said, you had all of these people that had just bought that $29 course and you went back to them and said, hey, you can apply that $29 to the membership. That would be the easiest evergreen funnel ever, where you have the $29 and then they get emails after that are encouraging them to complete it, but then at some point you shift over maybe on day 4 or 5 to, hey, for a limited time for the next 5 days or whatever it might be, we're going to give you the opportunity to apply that $29 to your first month of membership, and you're going to get this and all of these other things. So if you haven't done the Tulips course yet, you can, one, go ahead and take it if you're still not sure if this is right for you, or two, know that it's in the membership and you can have access to that and everything else. So that would be, to me, the most logical evergreen funnel for you to try would be just something on the back end of that $29 thing. And if you really build it out, you have your loose brushstrokes free PDF. Then once they get that on the thank you page, you offer the $29.
We do that. We give them a coupon to get it for $20.
Okay, I love it.
So that supports that ad budget as well.
Yes. So, okay, so she has the free thing. And then what she does is on the thank you page, she's offering the workshop, but she's offering it at a discount, $9 off essentially, to get it for $20 instead of $29. And then what she could do is offer obviously the membership on the back end of that. So the way this works from an ad perspective is you have the free thing on the thank you page, you offer the low ticket thing, and then you offer them the membership. That's your evergreen funnel. But you can also do it to where you retarget people who saw the free, didn't take it, and you can just retarget them directly to that $29 workshop. So basically 2 kinds of ads. The free list builder ad, they're still going to get the workshop offer, or just straight to the workshop, right? And when you can figure those things out, it's really great for acquisition. So I'm curious, I know everybody's going to be asking, did you run your own ads for your launch? Do you have an ads manager? Like, who is doing all the ad magic for you?
So I do have an ads manager. I don't know much at all about how to set up ad audiences because I don't really want to. So I had been working with Gretchen, my ads manager, for probably a year or so before we ever did Paint Week. So she was like familiar with what I had to sell and how I worked and all of that. And so she supported me through that. We're still working together. But she did say like the type of conversion rates that I had with the ads with Paint Week, like it was, I don't want it to seem like that's super normal. No, we do have to say that because she was like, this is kind of crazy. So when I first told her what I wanted to do and that I wanted to cover the $10 Paint Week cost, she was like, maybe not. She said, most of her clients were seeing more like a $20 to $25 CPA for a product, like, a low ticket workshop like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And then we ended up, I think, at around like $8. So we came out, maybe it was like $8.50. So we did get it under that, but that's not totally normal. And I think it's gotten much harder than at that time as well. Just ad costs are going up big time, I think.
Yeah, so by CPA, she means cost per acquisition, which is your cost to acquire somebody to purchase the thing, right? So Gretchen's saying typically 20 to 25. And I love Gretchen. She's a dear friend. She works with a lot of creatives in the art space, which is helpful because she's very familiar with that model as well. But I think it's great because as business owners, I think we often feel like we need to do everything ourselves and we're trying to save money in every little nook and cranny that we can, but we're honestly often missing out on opportunity for real return on investment by paying an expert to teach us or to do something for us or to give us the shortcut so that we can put our energy elsewhere or so that we get a better result from it. And you've really modeled that with having an ads person, with hiring somebody who was already trained through my program, with y'all being in the program. You're like, okay, we need to figure out retention. This is the place to figure out retention. And you're willing to invest in those shortcuts. And it's really paid off for your business significantly. And I'm excited because we have, in just like a week or so, we have a Pinterest organic and ads expert coming into Retain. And I know you're looking for other ad audiences. And obviously that is a very artistic and creative space. So I'm curious to see if you'll be able to test and try that and see how that works as you head into your September launch.
We are absolutely going to do that. Yes. That's been like, I have this to-do list. I'm staring at it right now and it's on there. It's like, find a Pinterest ad person. So yeah, that's definitely on our radar that we need to be thinking about Pinterest as well.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap up, I just want to get a little bit of perspective from you and just think about your life before you launch this membership, right? And then you launch this membership and now you are experiencing the success that you're experiencing. How has all of this had an impact on you personally and just your life in general? Do you feel like you are experiencing more freedom at this point, or do you feel like you're still in the thick of it all and you're just like on the edge of that?
Can I say both? Because I do feel like in some ways we have all these new freedoms that were not a part of our world before my family. So my husband left his job last May, so just about exactly a year ago. He retired at 45. Like, it's crazy. And we never thought that would be the case, but we just looked at how much he was working, how busy our lives were, and how much income my membership was bringing in at that time. And that was before the big explosion in members, but we still were going to be having enough regular income as a family that it was far surpassing what he was making in his more corporate job. So that was a huge thing. So like, he's a stay-at-home dad now, and he is able to pick up our kids, and he's not traveling, and he's doing so much more than what he would have been doing before. So that's like the biggest thing right away, that we could make that decision. That was amazing. And we just don't have, when we did initially make the decision, we were like, okay, I hope this is going to work. We kind of felt that stress, like we have to get our own health insurance and things like that. But now we've grown to this point that I don't have that financial stress anymore, where I'm not wondering like if I'm going to be able to do it. I know I'm going to be able to do it. And we've been able to, we just purchased our dream property. We have wanted to have a waterfront home for our entire marriage. We love like water skiing and wakeboarding, and that's just like a huge part of what my husband and I love. And so we just purchased a home. It's like 30 minutes from our house, and it'll be our little vacation home on the water. And I never imagined we could do that, but at this point in our lives. So it's just been so awesome. So those things are amazing. But I say I am a little bit still in the thick of it because I'm still in the process of growing my team, handing over tasks, getting comfortable with other people doing all the things that I've always done. So my team we've grown to, there's like 7 now on the team. And 2 years ago, it was just me. So that's a big change. And I'm still just kind of figuring those things out. But I know it's going to be there, that we're going to get to this point where we just are seamless, and I don't have to work 40 or 50 hours a week. I could maybe work like 25 or 30 hours a week. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I can completely relate to that because when my husband left his job in, I think it was 2014 or 2015, it was just a complete game changer for us. And we were like, and at that point, I think it motivated me as a business owner because I knew this is not like an extra thing, or like this is the thing that is going to sustain our family. So I started to be way more intentional about the profit line and the sustainability of the business. So it really does put you in that CEO mindset, which I think is really valuable. I call it burning the ship. Like, I just think anytime we can burn the ship, it's very motivating for most people. It can be traumatic for some, but very motivating for many people. And then also, I do often find especially with memberships, that often you get the financial windfall and the financial freedom, but it takes quite a bit longer for the time freedom to come, because in order to sustain that financial freedom, you have to build the systems, you have to build the team, and that just takes time. It takes time for you to become the leader you need to become to now lead a team, and also for them to become decision makers in the business that aren't just relying on you all the time. Well, Allie, this has been so fun. I love hearing membership stories, but I think showcasing one that has had such fast success, but also a model that people can duplicate. Maybe not duplicate the level of success that model brought, but there's nobody out there that can't take what you've done with this paint week and essentially create a version of that to try for themselves. And you've given us, I think, all of the key takeaways that we need to make that something that people can test and implement. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to share. I mean, I feel like I don't want to keep things a secret. If I have something that can help other people, like, I would just love to be able to share that with more people. So thanks for having me on.
Well, I know there's going to be some people who are like, okay, this Allie girl seems really interesting. And oh, by the way, I'm an artist, because we do have lots of artists and creatives that listen to this podcast. So what's the best way for people to connect with you? I think you have like a free download or something that they can get their hands on?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Allie K Studio, and then my website is alliekstudio.com. So on either one of those, you can grab my freebie brushstrokes guide, or you could sign up for the mini course. Those would be the best ways to get started. You can also just hop on my newsletter and start getting our Painting Tip Tuesday newsletter that we send out every week.
So it's ALIKAY, right? Allie K.
Yeah, so spelled a little bit different. Yes, just 6 letters, short and sweet, Allie K Studio. Yep.
I always have to spell my own name. So when I know somebody else has like a unique spelling, I'm always spelling it out for them. But I would highly encourage you all to get that, even just to see her process, to see the freebie, to see the offer for the $29 thing. I think the more we immerse ourselves in what their membership site owners are doing, the more we can understand and apply it to our business.
Completely, 100%. Yeah.
Well, Allie, thanks for coming to hang out with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Shanna.